Hey guys, my name's Chris and welcome back to Grave Reviews. And today we are talking about the 1987 Clive Barker classic, Hellraiser. And you say, Chris, what are you going to talk about? Everything has been said about Hellraiser. It is an iconic, classic movie, and there's really nothing else left to say about it. And to that I say, yeah, pretty much. But slated for later this year, we'll see if it actually happens, I'm not holding my breath, the 2022, potentially, Hellraiser reboot directed by David Bruckner is supposed to be released. There's a full cast list out. It's definitely happening. We'll see if it hits this year. But it made me want to go back and revisit the entire series. And I thought, well, why not? Why not start at the beginning and go through so that when the reboot comes out, I am ready. And if it comes out next year, I'll probably forget everything, but at least I tried. So that's all I can do, right? So anyways, today I'm talking about the original, which is based on the Clive Barker novella, which means pretentious. What the hell's a novella? I guess it's like a shorter novel. Anyways, I read it, The Hellbound Heart. It's a great book, and the movie is pretty faithful to the book, if I recall, with some minor changes here and there. I'm sure if you are a huge fan of the movie and the book, you could nitpick some of the things I'm saying, but if I recall, I think they're pretty close. So I just rewatched Hellraiser again today. I usually watch it at least once a year, maybe twice or so. It's one of my favorite horror movies. It is a mixture of a lot of things that I really like. So I usually enjoy the more psychological horror movies that are a bit more cerebral, a bit more thoughtful, and kind of leave you with some existential dread and horror. Existential horror usually works best for me because a lot of times it's sort of relatable, and if it's not, it's so cosmic and out there that it leaves your mind pondering things, and Hellraiser really does that. It's got a Lovecraftian kind of feel to it, where there is just so much mystery shrouded in here and so many open-ended questions that really pique my interest. Now, Hellraiser also has some camp. Now, it came out late 80s, so there's some effects that are a bit campy and awesome, but also there's some cheesy moments when they go to hell and some creatures and stuff like that that do detract from the very dark nature of a lot of the content in the movie, but also are really fun. As the series progresses, it loses the thoughtfulness and goes way more for the camp, especially around the third movie. And a lot of the second movie. But we'll get into it. The first movie definitely has hints of camp as well, though. But I think that's why maybe it's such an endearing series. Not only is it written and directed very well, but also there's a wide gamut of horror fans. Some people just want the shock and the gore and the scares. And this movie delivers on that. I mean, the gore especially is very explicit. But like I was saying, it's got campy moments. It's got monsters and stuff. So it's just fun in a lot of ways. But also, this movie works on a more artistic, thoughtful side. There is a deep story being told here with a lot of interesting themes and a lot of mysterious subject matter that is just teased perfectly enough to really set your mind thinking about these things. So that's where I kind of get that Lovecraftian kind of element to the storytelling here. So going back and rewatching this movie, I'm currently working on my feature film Transient, and so I've been taking a different eye at a lot of older movies that I'm familiar with, trying to get like a different perspective on the filmmaking side, seeing what they're doing and why it's working so well. And noticing in this movie, there's so many little character moments that I really like that speak so much more about a character, who they are, than having characters explicitly saying it. Meaning, there's moments where Julia is like smoking and just drops her cigarette on the floor of their house and puts it out. And it speaks so much to her personality and who she is, and kind of like an unlikable nature of her. There's a moment later on where people ask about beer, and she's like, yeah, there's beer in the fridge. And Larry's reaction to that, being a little frustrated and annoyed that he's busy and she just could do it, but doesn't, kind of speaks about their relationship as well. It's those little moments, and I think they work so well because they're kind of understandable, maybe relatable. You know, we've all had frustrating moments with spouses or friends and stuff. So like it's these little moments that you're like, yeah, I recognize that emotion there. I think that works so much more than when a character outright like just says everything, because I don't know, most people don't just completely speak their mind at all times. It's those little moments that you have to pick up on when you're dealing with other humans that speak so much louder. And I think being able to capture that in a film and visually in this movie is done really well. And so the characters start to feel very understandable and a bit more fleshed out. I think another thing that really elevates this movie is the score. It's very iconic. It sounds so gothic and ominous and memorable. It's written by Christopher Young, who is, done so many movies at this point, but from the opening moments, it already like sets the tone for the movie, and it carries throughout the entire thing. I love the score to Hellraiser. So I was talking about like the existential nature of some of these things this movie brings up. There's just lots of adult ideas being explored. Pain, pleasure, desire, human psyche exploration here. Now, it's done in an over-the-top way, I'll grant you that. And then you kind of have the perversion of Christianity in a lot of ways, because the Cenobites are considered priests, and it's like a mixture of angel and demon, and it's just a really dark, gothic exploration of this idea. And when I first saw this movie, it was really shocking. Like, this was a traumatic movie when I was younger, because the gore feels so explicit. Watching it again now, it's definitely a little bit cheesier than a lot of newer movies that are trying to be shocking. But when I saw it when I was younger, I wasn't prepared for some of the imagery. And especially near the end, you know what I'm talking about, with Frank's death and being ripped apart. It's just incredibly disturbing, especially if you were younger and not like, if you're a veteran horror fan now and you've seen so much gross stuff, it's not nearly as shocking. But when I was younger, yeah, man, I hadn't seen anything like this before. And then of course you have Doug Bradley as Pinhead and the rest of the Cenobites. He's iconic. His voice, his mannerisms. I can never talk. I just don't know how to speak with words. Mannerisms. His mannerisms are so good. The way he moves in his suit. It's probably because his suit was stiff or whatever, but it adds to the character. His like just perfection, like slow movements and stuff. He just has this look, and his voice, everything. It just works so well. The lighting is really great in this movie.
We'll tear your soul apart.
I do wonder if a younger audience, if this movie's too slow for them. I wouldn't be surprised if it is. I don't particularly think it's a slow movie, but it is very small scale. I mean, almost the entire movie takes place in the one house. There is some moments where they go to a hospital, but it looks like a set. It doesn't look like a real hospital. It's very gothic, but it's cool. So I could understand if a newer audience wouldn't really get behind this. So we'll see where they take it with the reboot. If it is a more, I assume, with more modern sensibilities in filmmaking, probably faster paced. But we'll see if they go for the same very perverse idea behind this movie. So we'll see. But yeah, Hellraiser, completely fresh, 10 out of 10. This is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. If you haven't seen it, you need to check it out, especially if you like horror anyway. It is a deep and disturbing movie, and very dark. And there is very little to no levity in it. And there is some very disgusting things that happen. Let me know what you guys think of Hellraiser. I'm sure you love it. And if you don't, I'd actually really like to hear why not, what doesn't work for you. But that's going to do it for this episode of Grave Reviews. If you enjoyed it, please leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you here next time. Goodbye.